Please welcome PosiGen CEO Ben Healy and Secretary of the Treasury Janet Yellen.
Take the mic? All right. I'm not used to doing this, so I'll do my best. So, Madam Secretary, I'm going to address you while you stand behind me. I'll look out at the crowd, though, so I don't think I'm being rude to you, all right?
Not at all.
Okay. I want to thank you very much, very much. We are all deeply honored by your presence here today and your interest in our company and the work that you are doing in D.C. and across the country. I want to say that in talking to your team, I understand that actually you came here today for a very specific reason. I understand that you spent some time trying to balance the Fed's target inflation rate with full employment, and then you wanted to work on saving the global economy by convincing Congress to raise the debt ceiling and things like that. But you thought, let me actually take on something hard. So guys, she came here today to actually understand how a utility bill works, and then try and explain it to a customer. So we hope that we maybe have helped you along that journey.
A great deal of help. Thank you.
For those in the weeds, and this joke will only land with a few, of course, is Treasury, of course, oversees taxation in many ways and things related to that. So the non-bypassable charges are probably the most interesting on those utility bills. I want to say to you, Madam Secretary, since the beginning of this administration, this company, PosiGen, where we are so honored to have you today, you guys set a new tone for the economy, for energy policy, and we have since taken in hundreds of millions of dollars in investment across our capital structure and created hundreds of new jobs, effectively doubling the size of this company, thanks to, in many ways, to the support of the administration. But what we do here at PosiGen, serving our customer base, the low and moderate income communities that we serve, it's not easy. And so because PosiGen is about equity and access, about, as our founder, Tom Neihart, would say, delivering the benefits of solar for all, and really including working families for whom that high monthly energy burden is truly a burden that we can help alleviate, or who might have poor credit for any number of reasons and can't attain financing. That's what we still need to solve together more globally. We've been working on it, sort of voice in the wilderness. Now we feel like we're not alone. So the priorities of this administration in terms of the infrastructure bill, the Inflation Reduction Act, they give companies like ours the certainty and support we need. And we're really excited by the opportunity to continue to serve the communities we do, delivering savings where they matter, to hire staff and grow the company at all levels and paying every single employee a living wage, and to provide access and democratize clean energy. So with that, I'll pass the mic to you and just say thank you for being with us today. It means a great deal to us. Looking forward to your remarks.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ben, and good morning, everyone. Ben, I appreciate the lovely introduction, and I'm grateful to be here in Louisiana. There's really no better place to speak about the economic future we're building than in the New Orleans area. It's known for its energy and its dynamism, and I'm particularly grateful for the warm welcome from Ben, Tom, and the PosiGen team. What I'd like to speak about today is President Biden's historic economic agenda. Over the past year and a half, the president has signed 3 consequential bills into law: the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, CHIPS and Science Act, and the Inflation Reduction Act. Now, the passage of one of these laws by itself would be a significant accomplishment. But as the president laid out in his speech on Wednesday, these laws together constitute one of the most important economic investments our country has ever made. During my travels around the country, I've already seen the early impacts of these laws on American families and businesses, and I see them here in Louisiana too. The President's economic agenda advances a wide range of goals, bolstering our nation's manufacturing and infrastructure, boosting competition, enhancing resilience and security, extending our nation's technological leadership, and mitigating climate change. But today I want to focus on how it's creating good jobs, broadening economic opportunity, and improving our long-term economic outlook. The President's agenda, Bidenomics, is rooted in an economic framework that I call modern supply-side economics. This framework is aimed at expanding the productive capacity of the American economy. Before I discuss these investments, it's worth first speaking about what made them possible to begin with, and that is our historic economic recovery from the pandemic. As the President said on Wednesday, our administration came into office at a moment of unprecedented uncertainty about the American economy. A once-in-a-century pandemic triggered a once-in-a-generation economic collapse. There was no tried-and-true playbook for how to manage the dual public health and economic crises that we faced. But the President knew that decisive action was necessary, so our administration acted. We launched a vaccination campaign to put shots in arms, and we enacted the American Rescue Plan to enable households, businesses, and state and local governments to weather the economic storm. Now, our economy has endured numerous recessions over the past few decades, and during every downturn, one of the biggest fears is scarring in the labor market. That is, that Americans who were thrown out of work during the immediate crisis would stay unemployed for the long term. It's a crippling fate, and it plagued millions of Americans in the aftermath of the Great Recession. But we saw very few signs of scarring during this recovery. In fact, our nation's unemployment rate has fallen to historic lows. Over the past 2.5 years, over 13 million jobs have been created, including nearly 800,000 manufacturing jobs. Here in Louisiana, employment is up over 110,000 jobs from January 2021. And the portion of prime working-age Americans in our workforce is the highest it has been in over 15 years. And that measure for women recently reached an all-time high. Importantly, our recovery has been broad-based and inclusive. Today, the unemployment rates for Black and Hispanic Americans are at among their lowest points on record. I'm looking forward to speaking more about our historically equitable recovery later today at the Essence Festival in New Orleans. Now, of course, we still face serious challenges, including some in the short term, but our administration has stayed laser-focused on them. While inflation remains too high, we have seen meaningful progress. Annual headline inflation is down 11 months in a row, even as our labor market remains especially resilient. This means that Americans are getting a bit more breathing room from the higher price increases that plagued us last summer. Of course, our work is not over. We continue to take actions to expand overall supply and provide cost relief to Americans where we can. As I've said, our goal is to tackle inflation while protecting the economic gains of the past 2.5 years. For a year now, we've heard our fair share of predictions about an imminent U.S. recession, with forecasters projecting one by the end of 2022, then by the start of 2023, then by the middle of this year. But our economy has proven more resilient than many had thought, and I continue to believe there is a path to reducing inflation while maintaining a healthy labor market. Without downplaying the significant risks ahead, the evidence that we have seen so far suggests we are on that path. And this sentiment is echoed by business executives I've met with who have increasingly voiced confidence in our economy. While there are parts of the economy that are slowing down, households are spending at a robust pace and businesses continue to invest. Going forward, I expect the current strength of the labor market and robust household and business balance sheets to serve as a source of economic strength, even if our economy does cool a bit more as inflation falls. Now, of course, significant uncertainty remains, but the American economy is in a better place than many would have thought at this time last year, and it's certainly in a better place than most reasonable people would have expected when we entered office in January 2021. As our economy continues to transition to steady and healthy growth, I believe that we're uniquely positioned to capitalize on the future. Last year, I laid out an economic framework that encapsulates my views about how the president's economic agenda will grow the country. It's called Modern Supply-Side Economics. Our administration's modern supply-side policies prioritize investments in our workforce and its productivity in order to raise the ceiling for what our economy can produce. As the president outlined on Wednesday, our economic approach sits in steep contrast with traditional supply-side economics. Traditional supply-side economics focuses primarily on providing tax cuts to spur greater private investment. In many cases, this approach has not only failed to boost growth as promised, it's also contributed to deepening income and wealth disparities and environmental damage. Unlike the traditional approach, modern supply-side policies focus both on a range of productivity-boosting investments as well as its distribution across people and places. President Biden has advanced a significant core of the modern supply-side agenda through the enactment of 3 historic laws: the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, CHIPS and Science Act, and Inflation Reduction Act. And we're already seeing their early results. This week, Treasury released a study that shows that real construction spending in manufacturing has doubled since 2021. And importantly, that's not driven by the impact of higher prices. What we're seeing is a remarkable surge in factory construction in the United States. President Biden's economic agenda will expand our economy's productive capacity and bolster our economic resilience. Take infrastructure. Economists broadly agree that investing in public infrastructure can boost productivity and growth. Yet, 1 in 5 miles of highways and major roads in America are in poor condition. Your former mayor, Mitch Landrieu, is coordinating an administration-wide effort to rebuild not only traditional infrastructure like roads and bridges, but also digital infrastructure like high-speed internet. Louisiana was the first state to be awarded broadband funds from the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. And major projects like the replacement of the I-10 Calcasieu River Bridge are being made possible with federal funds. These efforts will facilitate the efficient movement of people, goods, and ideas. It will boost our long-term economic outlook with broad benefits for American families, businesses, and workers. Our agenda is also investing in economic resilience. Semiconductors are tiny inputs that have large implications for our economy and national security. Conventional technologies like toasters, refrigerators, and cars rely on a steady supply of semiconductors, and so too do cutting-edge military technologies. But the United States only makes up 12% of global semiconductor production, and that's down from 37% 3 decades ago. We've seen the acute impacts of a disruption to chip supply on our economy. A chip shortage during the pandemic cost the United States economy an estimated $240 billion in 2021 alone. To mitigate future shocks, we're building a semiconductor ecosystem here at home. And that ecosystem is already growing. The recent boom in manufacturing construction is principally driven by computer, electronic, and electrical manufacturing, which has nearly quadrupled since the start of last year. Our economic agenda is helping close the financing gap between chip manufacturing in the United States and abroad. Put simply, we're helping companies build the case for investing here at home. Importantly, our resilience agenda is transforming communities across America. Expansions of their domestic footprint by companies like Intel, IBM, and Micron are having significant implications for local communities. One analysis shows that nearly half of the jobs in the semiconductor industry do not require a bachelor's or graduate degree. According to one estimate, over 50 new semiconductor ecosystem projects have been announced in the wake of the CHIPS Act, and these projects will create thousands of good-paying jobs. Treasury took a big step this month to provide manufacturers with even greater certainty to invest in America by setting clear rules of the road for investors seeking to take advantage of the CHIPS investment tax credit. American workers have long been part of a proud tradition of science and innovation, and we're now cementing their leadership at the forefront of one of this century's most significant technologies. As we implement these laws, our guiding principle is to make sure that these investments broaden economic opportunity, and not just on the East and West coasts, but across the entire country. Treasury is leading the implementation of the clean energy provisions in the Inflation Reduction Act. The IRA is an historic environmental law, the boldest climate action this country has ever taken, and a crucial step toward building true energy security. But it's also a generational economic law. Clean energy presents one of the most transformative economic opportunities in modern history, and we're making sure that the clean energy transition will bring along every community, particularly those that were at risk of being left behind. Since the law passed last summer, we have seen tens of billions of dollars in investments up and down the clean energy supply chain. I've seen how the green economy is driving a renewal in many communities firsthand during my travels across the country. From a solar panel company I visited in North Carolina to an EV battery plant in Tennessee. Communities in the Midwest and the South are seeing such a boom in gigafactory investments that commentators are speaking of the rise of an EV battery belt. Here in Louisiana, companies like PosiGen are benefiting from the greater certainty that the IRA provides for their future business plans, as well as increased demand for their products. Earlier this week, GM announced a deal with Element 25 to process critical minerals from Australia right here in Louisiana, and it will be the first plant of its kind in the United States, and it will help GM scale the production of its electric vehicles in North America beyond 1 million units annually. This broad progress has not come by happenstance. It's the result of deliberate policy design and execution. The Inflation Reduction Act incentivizes companies to invest in underserved communities. It also incentivizes investments in communities that have been at the forefront of energy production and have experienced job loss, including many communities here in Louisiana. We're also making sure that the workers building the clean energy economy actually benefit from it. For the first time, companies must satisfy strong labor standards to qualify for an enhanced tax credit. And that means paying their workers prevailing wages and hiring registered apprentices. President Biden has been an ardent champion for American workers throughout his career. The Inflation Reduction Act's strong labor provisions build on other work we're doing to empower and to train workers, including through the American Rescue Plan, Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, and CHIPS and Science Act. This month, Treasury took a major step toward expanding the reach of these clean energy tax incentives. We know that the clean energy transition will take trillions of dollars, and the federal government cannot do it alone. We recently issued proposed rules that extend the benefits of clean energy credits directly to states, cities, and towns, and to tax-exempt organizations like hospitals, schools, charities, and other nonprofits. And we also created new opportunities for many more startups and early-stage companies to take advantage of these incentives. And these steps serve as a kind of force multiplier. They mean that more clean energy projects will be built quickly and affordably, and more communities will feel the IRA's massive economic benefits. Well, let me close by saying I am proud of what the President and our administration has accomplished in the 2.5 years since taking office. We've rescued the economy from the depths of an unprecedented crisis, and now we are investing in our future. To do so, we're capitalizing on the greatest strengths of our nation and our people. We're building, we're innovating, and as the President likes to say, we're working to grow the economy from the bottom up and the middle out. As modern supply-side economics demonstrates, that's not just a talking point, that's smart economics. Well, we continue to face significant challenges, but I hope you feel proud, as I do, about how far we've come, as well as the possibility that lies ahead. And I'm hopeful of the America we're building together. Thank you so much for hosting me here today.
I think that's the show, folks. Stick around. I want to say thank you, in all seriousness, to the PosiGen team members who helped make this happen, to our partners in Treasury and elsewhere. I want to acknowledge Commissioner Lewis, who many of us had a chance to talk to on Juneteenth, Councilor Morell for coming as well to be part of today's event. If there are any other honored guests here, and I don't call you out now, come yell at me later. But in all seriousness, oh, Mike, you want some love? All right, the President of the Greater New Orleans Chamber of Commerce. Whatever it is, I just met him. Hold on. GNO Inc. Sorry, Mike. Anyway, that's what you get with the new CEO. Guys, in all seriousness, this was a special day. I want to acknowledge this. This is a special day for this company in terms of being able to host Secretary Yellen. Really appreciate everyone coming together to work to make it a successful event. To the PosiGen team members sitting up front, who actually did some education this morning, well done. And otherwise, really, oh, Tracy's telling me to move into the middle. Well, there's a thing here. I get a little tall when I'm on this now. Anyhow, yeah. I'll leave it there. Thank you guys very much for being part of this event. Thanks for all you do for PosiGen. Thank you, honored guests, for your support of the company. As she said, let's keep building it together. Thanks, guys.